Right, so reading the dogs, right? It's gone a wee backward journey. Can't find the page I'm looking for. Page I'm looking for was microbiologist deaths and murders echo bizarre Marconi deaths. So I clicked on that link in light of yet another death of a microbiologist. This time Dr. David Wynne Williams killed when he was struck by a vehicle whilst out jogging this week. I went, but it didn't work. At the time I can't get it up anymore. And that page up any longer, so right, so I'll go back again. Right, Marconi, right, so microbiologist, it says another one, so there's been a few, right? There's been others. But then you go on to the right, go on to that redacted site first. Right, if anyone thinks I'm doing this for fear porn, right, you're fucking miles out. Doing it to try and bring any awareness that I can get out of any of this and try and move it to people who can take action. If I wanted to make fear porn, I could think of stuff quite easily, and I'd jazz all my fucking vlogs up with big headlines and all that, and that's not what I'm about. I don't even care about fucking subs. I never expect to get more than 20 anyway. So I honestly don't care, as long as some of it gets out to somewhere, and then just it jogs anyone along further anyway on the journey of fucking being able to reverse this shit. But get this right, and this is a good outline for conspiracy theories, right? What everyone calls a conspiracy theory, right? And just listen to the facts, though, right, of this, without glamorising it. I don't want to glamorise it, right? But listen to the facts. Between 82 and 90, a cluster of strange and often grisly deaths among scientists and computer experts working in Britain's high-tech defence industry baffled investigators. Baffling is not the word when you get into this case, right? Many of the deaths were so bizarre they left coroners unable to determine their cause. Others were judged to be suicides and accidents, despite clear evidence to the contrary. So what's going on here, right? Most of the victims were computer scientists working for Marconi Electronic Systems and related companies on top secret defence projects, including the US Strategic Defence Initiative. Due to the nature of the work and the oddness of their deaths, by 87 the national and international press had latched onto the story. Were the deaths sabotaged by a foreign government as some kind of Cold War plot? No, neither of them two. Tony Collins, a correspondent for the UK's Computer Weekly, started to receive reports of deaths amongst computer scientists and engineers in the mid-80s. Over the next few years, he would file a series of stories on the deaths, eventually finding 25 cases he felt were connected. In 1990, he wrote a book, Open Verdict, which concluded the spate of deaths were suspicious. Collins suspected some kind of plot, but was unable to come up with any firm conclusions as to its true nature. Was there really a plot to murder the scientists? Evidence for suspicious circumstances. Story began in March 82 with the death of senior computer scientist Keith Bowden, contractor for GC Marconi, Britain's major high-tech defence company. One night after attending a social function in London, Bowden drove his car across a dual carriageway and plunged off a bridge, down an embankment and into an abandoned rail yard. He died instantly. The police said Bowden was drunk and driving too fast, but his wife and solicitor believed otherwise. Friends who were there with Bowden that night denied he'd been drinking. Bowden's solicitor hired an accident investigator to examine the wreck. Somebody had swapped the normally pristine tyres on Bowden's Rover with a set that were worn and old. 3 years later, radar designer Roger Hill killed himself with a shotgun at his home. Later that year, Jonathan Wash died after plunging from a hotel window. The coroner returned an open verdict. More puzzling still was the death of Vimal Dajbhai, 24, who jumped off the Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol in August 1986. Dajbhai had been working at Marconi on computer control systems for Stingray torpedoes. Another open verdict was returned. Dajibai was found with his pants around his ankles and a needle-sized puncture wound on his buttock. The Bristol coroner was concerned by this. It was a mystery then, and it remains a mystery now. Perhaps the most disturbing of all the deaths occurred 2 months later. Ashrad Sharif, another computer scientist who worked on satellite guidance systems at Marconi, died in the oddest circumstances imaginable. Sharif also travelled to Bristol, tied one end of a ligature to his neck and the other end to a tree, then jammed his foot on the accelerator of his car and decapitated himself. The day before his death, Sharif had been acting oddly and was seen paying for accommodation in a rooming house with a bundle of high-denomination banknotes. A relative summoned to identify the body noticed something suspicious about his car. What appeared to be a metal rod was lying on the floor next to the accelerator. Had it been used to wedge down the pedal? The coroner wasn't happy. This is past coincidence. I will not be completing the inquest until I know how 2 men with no connection to Bristol came to meet the same end here. He never did find out why, but both men were suspected to be working on a top-secret project called Cosmos, which involved underwater guidance systems, establishing a further connection between the pair. Thousands of people worked in the UK's defence industry in the 80s, and these deaths, spread out over 3 years, could easily be dismissed as coincidences. Indeed, nobody at the time made any connection. But moving into 1987-88, the pace of deaths massively increased, and the UK press and some MPs began to join the dots. The cluster of 87-88. 87 started with the death of Richard Pugh, another computer expert in the defence industry and consultant to the MOD. Pugh's body was found in his flat, his feet bound, a plastic bag on his head, and a thick rope coiled around his body. The coroner's verdict was an accident due to sexual misadventure. Just days later, another scientist engaged in top-secret work for the MOD, Dr. John Britton, died in his own garage of carbon monoxide poisoning. The next month, another Marconi engineer, David Skeels, also died of carbon monoxide poisoning found in his car with a hosepipe connected to the exhaust. Now fucking hell, eh? Also in February, 2 more defence engineers and scientists died. Victor Moore from an overdose, Peter Peepel, yet another victim of carbon monoxide poisoning. Again? Come on. Peepel's death was particularly troubling. Having spent an evening with friends, he and his wife returned home and Peepel went to put away the car. The next morning his wife found his body jammed underneath the car with his mouth next to the exhaust pipe. Police were unconvinced it was suicide because it seemed impossible he could have manoeuvred his body into the odd position it was found. Don't know. That's just fucking bizarre, isn't it? An open verdict was ultimately returned. John Whiteman supposedly drowned himself in his bathtub, the body surrounded by pills and empty alcohol bottles, yet the autopsy revealed no trace of drugs or alcohol in his body. In March, David Sands, a senior scientist working on computer-controlled radar at Marconi's sister company, made a sudden U-turn in his car and crashed at high speed into an empty cafe. His vehicle was inexplicably loaded up with cans of petrol, yeah, like you do, causing the car to be completely consumed by a fireball. Sands was only identified with reference to his dental records. Fucking hell, eh? This is just beyond bizarre. In April, in almost identical fashion to Richard Pugh at the start of 87, Mark Wisner was found dead with plastic bag on his head and cling film wrapped around his face. The verdict was death by sexual misadventure. The previous year, Marconi purchased defence electronics firm Plessey. Within a month between May and June 87, 2 scientists were dead. Michael Barker, 22 in May, and Frank Jennings, 60 in June. At the start of 88, lab technician Russell Smith jumped off a cliff in Cornwall, a senior computer engineer at Marconi. Trevor Knight was the victim of yet another suicide by exhaust fucking pipe. In August, there were 2 gruesome electrocutions of senior figures at Marconi that are some of the most suspicious of all the deaths. Alistair Beckham was a computer engineer who it's believed was working on top secret pilot programs for America's Strategic Defence Initiative. After some light Sunday afternoon gardening, Beckham retired to his shed, attached wires to his chest, pushed them into a power socket, and with a handkerchief jammed in his mouth, hit the power. Yeah, like you do gardening just before you die in such a fucking barbaric, painful fucking manner. Well, imaginable painful. I've had like electric shocks and I do not like them. That would be one of the last things I'd pick. Beckham's wife was entirely unconvinced her husband committed suicide. Beckham was highly secretive about his work, and just hours after his death, men from the Ministry of Defence arrived at the scene and took away several documents and files from Beckham's home. In similar but even more gruesome fashion, Marconi director John Ferry jammed wires into his own tooth fillings and electrocuted himself. Could all of these grisly suicides really just be a coincidence? By now several stories in the press had appeared, questioning whether there was actually some kind of KGB or Eastern Bloc conspiracy to kill the... Yeah, because they're the only fucking options on the table, aren't they? That it with the fucking commies. That's the best they could do. See how much shit they used to cover up by just saying it was the communist threat and the Iron Curtain, and they got away with all sorts. Several MPs and trade union leader, oh fucking hell, must be important, Clive Jenkins, oh it's very important then, called for an inquiry into the deaths. Jenkins wrote that the deaths were statistically incredible and spoke of the concern amongst his members over these clusters of suicides, violent deaths or murders. The Conservative government of Margaret Thatcher dismissed calls for an inquiry, claiming the deaths were not statistically unusual and were just coincidences, perhaps exacerbated by high levels of stress in the defence industry. Yeah, well, that's stressed that I decided to kill myself and get some peace, so I fucking rammed electric wires into my fucking fillings and plugged it in. Because I was stressed and I wanted to yeah. Even to a madman, that's no sense. Professor Colin Pritchard, a noted expert in mental illness and suicides, thinks at least some of the deaths were statistically uncommon. Understatement's the fucking name of the game with these fuckers, isn't it? When it's hiding shit, and it might be a can of worms what'll tip their way. While it's true suicide is one of the most prevalent causes of early death in men, especially young men, Pritchard believes factors in some of their cases make the suicide verdicts unlikely. Well, it's true suicide. Look, we have to get it in. It's one of the prevalent causes of early death in men. Fuck off. Pritchard cites the cases of at least 4 of the men that share unusual elements. All 4 men have complained to friends and family that they have been tasked strange, impossible and unscientific tasks by their employers. All 4 men committed suicide in incredibly violent and bizarre ways. Pritchard has studied numerous suicide cases and thinks such extreme suicide methods are normally only associated with people suffering severe mental breakdowns to the extent they would be unable to even hold down jobs. Yet the men were all employed up until the day of their deaths, and none had shown any sign of mental illness or other disturbance. That makes it spookier. All of the men had recently found new jobs and were preparing to leave within days of their deaths. Likewise, all 4 men had recently arranged appointments with their MPs. What were the strange unscientific projects that the men were complaining of, and why had they all booked appointments with their MPs? Had they stumbled on something in their jobs that had worried them? Something that led to them being silenced? Sexual misadventure as a method of murder. Several of the deaths were put down to sex games gone wrong. Ah, you're right. How many times have we heard that now? but intelligence expert Conrad Black says death by sexual madventure is a common method of disguising murder in the world of espionage. Black told the Daily Record disposing of an enemy and making it look like a perverted fantasy gone wrong is in the training manuals of every spy agency from MI6 to Mossad. The sex game cover is a very useful mechanism in a murder. Not only does it provide a disguise for the actual means and method of death, it trashes the reputation of the victim and blunts the energy of any subsequent investigation. The Morricone deaths weren't the only unexplained, violent or unusual deaths amongst defence workers in Europe in the 80s. In West Germany in 86 there were several incidents involving individuals associated with America's SDI, the Strategic Defence Initiative, dubbed Star Wars by the press. Days of Ronnie Reagan, remember? The SDI was an ambitious program to create a space-based anti-nuclear weapons shield which would have rendered Soviet nuclear capability useless. Do you think they were going to come out and tell us what bullshit it all is? In July, Karl-Heinz Beckhurst, director at Siemens, at Siemens, and an SDI contractor, was killed by a car bomb in Munich. Later in 86, Gerald von Braunheim, I can't pronounce that, I tried, a senior advisor in SDI negotiations, was killed. There were other attacks on firms related to SDI, and German prosecutors believed they were being targeted. That should be they were being targeted. Similar deaths and disappearances among defence figures in Sweden and Italy occurred at the same time, giving rise to the suspicion that there was an Eastern Bloc plot to attack Western defence capability in the SDL. Yeah, that's the only thing on the table in it. The commies did it, but then 4 guys were going to go to the MP. So why would Eastern Bloc, but you know, doesn't add up. Doesn't add up. Stress has been cited as a problem. Well, I'm just not having it. You can read the rest of the argument, go for it, but so when people accuse me of not accuse me, but if anyone ever does accuse me of making fear porn, you know, doing this for fucking hits, so I'm not. I'm doing it because I have to get it out. I have to tell someone. And this way I'm not hassling anyone. It's up to you whether you fucking watch it or not. I'm not going bothering people with fucking... This is why I don't want naive subs. I don't want to be on here. I don't want anyone to ever come to my stuff and be shocked by the information they've just seen. Go elsewhere for you. That's not fear. Being like that fucking wee guy who's a pagan, and what's he called? Thomas Sheridan. He's a dick anyway. Right, he says that truthers love to be scared, right? Well, he's talking shit. Because I don't think he's ever been scared then. Because I've been scared, and I'll tell you what, I don't like it. What he's on about is thrilled. Having a thrill. So if you're here for thrills, then fuck off. Basically. Seeing that Thomas Sheridan, Kate Bush re-recorded an album because Rolf Harris was on it, instrumentals all through it. And you want to listen to his reasoning behind this. I won't go, it's just a tube. But basically he's trying to tell Kate Bush that she can't re-record her album, and for whatever reason, it doesn't matter now she's recorded it, she should never go back to it, leave it at that, it's a piece of art, leave it at that. What's it matter to him? And who's he to tell someone what to do with something they created? Maybe she wants the stain of Rolf Harris taken off it. And he was trying to, basically he's a Rolf Harris apologist. Like maybe Rolf Harris did get dragged to and he didn't do that, but the guy was a sleaze. He was writing, he was having a relationship with a girl he'd known since she was a child, and they were family friends. You know what I mean? So it's like being a close friend of a family, and then the daughter grows up and then you have a sexual relationship with that daughter. That's not creepy alone. How can anyone justify anything like that? Just creepy, fucking, disgusting people. If that's paganism, then ram it up and ram it. Right, I'm out of here. See you all later.